Ponzi nature of cryptocurrency. I'm going to explain that, and I'm also going to talk about the solution. So, where is the Ponzi type nature happening? Well, we always know that Ponzi's are often associated with pyramid schemes where being at the top and you get more people in after you, and it really is just value that's fueling towards the top. And the only way to get money is to get more people in. That kind of sounds like cryptocurrency, doesn't it? Well, it's pretty much because that's exactly how the supply model distribution works. If you're buying in the beginning, you can get a very large portion of the supply, and as the price moves up, people have to pay more and more to get less and less of the supply until they're just barely getting anything. Meanwhile, the liquidity that's building up can be quite significant as the price moves up. But you're going to find that something happens, which is eventually the whales or the early buyers are going to take profits. So when it comes to selling, these people at the bottom barely have any control. They have such a small ability to take out that liquidity. Meanwhile, the whales, the early buyers, they have significant ability to take out significant liquidity. And so this is the model that people are designing to support businesses, projects, and ideas. Is a share model system that was created in the 16th century for a trading company. And it's a way to give a representation of the share of the value of that company. If they succeed, you can benefit off of it. And it's a pretty awesome model for people to come together to support something so that one person doesn't bear the entire weight of the success of a company or financing a company. But because the value incentive is be early, get a large portion of the supply, and then sell, then that's exactly what happens. And that's what we see in crypto is the people who are being rewarded and winning are not necessarily helping the company succeed. They are actually doing the opposite. Now, they helped the company whenever they bought, but they got so much power to devalue it later on that they ended up causing this massive sell-off. And when people see charts like this, they don't want to buy it. And this is a visual representation of the sentiment of the company. Visual sentiment. So if you see a chart that's down, you think, I don't want that. Other people don't want it. It's down. Clearly something's wrong there. You would think. But the problem is, this is the only way to get the value. It's being incentivized to be early and dump a project. But if you think about that concept, is that what's good for communities? Is that what's good for a project or a company or an idea to succeed? If everybody's motivation is purely just to be early and to put as big a red candle as they can on the chart, well, no, it's not. You're actually being incentivized to hurt the project and hurt the community. When people talk about community, it's not about community. It's about finding a community to buy after you to be your exit liquidity. You want to sell for $1 million? You need a bunch of people to provide that liquidity so you can do that. The only way to make value in crypto is to sell down on your own community and hurt, greatly hurt, the likelihood that that project will be able to succeed with such a down chart. People are not going to want to be interested in getting into it. The sentiment looks bad, the community's upset, and there's no more funding for whatever it is that they might be building. This means that growth is not being incentivized. Growth is only incentivized until your selling point. And then what is incentivized and what you're rewarded for is the death of the project. So by design, supply distribution, which works just like a Ponzi, incentivizes you to be early, buy a large portion of the supply, and be rewarded with all of the value for selling down the charts. That's how crypto works. And you are not incentivized to care about the community. You're not incentivized to care about the project and its success because there's not value there. There's just the potential of future value. There is no value in the future. But there's immediate value available now, and I want anybody who watches this to think about that. If you have $1 million in crypto, you know if you don't sell that, if you don't put this candle on the chart, that it could go down to nothing. It could go down to $5,000. And so if you're speculating at that position, do I believe, even if I do believe in this project, if I don't realize this $1,000,000 now, I could lose it forever. This is not just your position. This is anybody who holds similar or bigger bags to you. They're in the same mindset. I have a lot of money. If I don't sell right now, even though this project might have a future, even though I will be hurting the community, and even though there's potential for more value in the future, if I don't realize this value now, then it's the difference between guaranteed value now through selling or the potential of more value in the future plus the potential of no value in the future. And here's where the really important aspect is that I don't really know many people understand when it comes to crypto or shares, is because of this setup and because pump and dump plays out so much, every crypto does this, that people realize I can't chase the long term. I must chase the short term. And now it's purely be early, get a large amount, hope people buy it, market it, pump it up as the next big thing, and then dump it. This means people can't even kind of consider the potential of the future of the project. If you're thinking about the future of the project in the community, you're going to lose, because it's the people who aren't thinking about the community or the future of the project, who are chasing being early and dumping, that are always going to win, because that's where the value is. So this is why attaching a Ponzi-like structure to a system that's supposed to be designed to allow for communities to come together to support a business, a project, or an idea, which means that you believe in it and you want to see it succeed, is not a good system. And it's clearly demonstrating that something needs to be changed. And that's where I'm going to show you the solution to that. So to fix that, when buys happen, when you buy a portion of the supply, you need value that goes towards the immediate. That's your typical liquidity pool. But you also need value that, not just potential value, but real value that goes towards the delayed. Because really what you're talking about is the difference between, do I believe in this now, or do I believe that this will do well in the future? And if you have a buying mechanism or a liquidity pool, a liquidity system that stores up value that's both delayed and immediate, and now you get to choose between the two, well, the delayed value cannot be hurt through selling. So when the price goes up, the delayed value moves up and the immediate value moves up. And this allows for you to, when you make that decision, put any idea, meme coin, utility. Now when the whales go to sell, they say, I have value right now, but I also have value in the future. The value, I could realize my value right now, but I also have value in the future that can't go down. The value in the future can only go up because it's delayed. Whether buys are happening, whether sells are happening, it will fuel that value in the future. And this allows for people to be able to balance the idea of purely chasing speculation to actually caring about the community, the project, the future, and the idea on how good of an idea it is, because there's actual value attached to the future, the community, the project, and the idea. And so even if the value goes really high and the project does well and you see a lot of liquidity come in, both the immediate value and the delayed value are going to move up. And eventually, we know what's eventually going to happen. People are going to take profits at some point. And typically, this is where a project goes into free fall and everybody gets scared and sells. Not because they don't believe in the project, but because they don't want to miss out on their chance of taking profits. And they know that this pattern is played out so many times that if they don't get it, then most likely it will not happen again. And therefore, people are not approaching projects based on what they are, based on the community, based on the idea, based on the business. They are purely approaching it based 100% on speculation, on riding up and then coming back down. So when sell-offs start to happen, it very well could, and most of the time does, cause a massive sell-off of fear to happen. Like I said, not because they don't believe in the future, but because they don't want to lose the only way that they can get value. And so when the sell-off happens, then the value gets greatly decreased. And if you have delayed liquidity, it does something really amazing. I don't think people just don't know what this is because this is a new concept. Delayed value, it doesn't show in the price, but it does show up because it's connected to the token. It puts demand on the token. It creates what we call a floor. Because there's value that can be drained to zero, and there's value that can't be drained because it's delayed. Selling can't hurt this value in the future. It's both connected to one supply, one token. And so you get a floor out of your delayed value, which means that if people sell down to the floor, that it will protect the chart from going below that. If someone were to sell below the floor, then you would be able to come in and buy a bag where your rewards, because of the delayed value, is greater than the cost of your bag. You would get paid to buy a bag because of delayed value. And so what this does is this gives a time frame of protecting the sentiment of the project to allow for the community and the project to succeed at its goals of growth and success through utilities. Delayed value is an amazing thing because delayed value rewards holding. If you only reward selling, then everyone's going to chase your project to sell. They're not in it to help your project grow. They're in it to get as much value out of it as they can. And why wouldn't they be? But if you have significant value stored up through holding, then you're able to create a situation where people can be greatly rewarded when they're typically punished for believing in the future of a project. And so if you have to make a decision between $1 million and maybe some money, maybe more, maybe less, in a system where pump and dumps constantly happen, you're probably always going to choose the one that's guaranteed. So by delaying value, we can change how charts play out, and you can change the most important aspect of why we're doing this in the first place, is to support good ideas that make society better. That's why investing was invented in the first place, to say, hey, that's a pretty good idea. I'm down to pitch in some money, help you get up and going, and then if you do well, you give me some money back, right? That's the entire purpose of this, is to fund something that you believe in, not to fund something that you think is a scam, but at least you can make a bunch of money. You want to fund ideas that help society be better. And if you can incentivize systems where people are chasing the best ideas, then you can push society forward at a faster rate in a way that helps them develop and help each other more, right? If we're chasing bad ideas or taking money from each other through theft or abusing the system or taking things at the cost of others, then we're incentivizing what's bad for everybody while benefiting the few. But if we chase good ideas that help everyone, that's what a good idea is. It's not something that just helps me and hurts everybody else. It's something that brings value to everybody. Then we can create systems where we're constantly pushing people to chase what is beneficial for everybody. Right now, that is not the case because all the value is in the immediate, speculative, be early in the Ponzi, get a bunch of supply, destroy your entire community, destroy the likelihood of the project, but who cares that you hurt everybody, you hurt that idea, you hurt the project, you got your $1 million, so whatever. The thing is, this isn't sustainable, and once people figure this out, people are going to quit doing it. That's why this bull run has been so quiet, because people are realizing, people don't want to be exit liquidity. I don't want to be exit liquidity to the insiders, the celebrities, the snipers, the whales. You guys are all abusing most of us, and so that you can win. And so what we are building has not been done before, and it's quite an amazing system that directly addresses this problem. It's not about shilling something. It's about, is this a solution or not? That's really the only question anybody who listens to this has to understand. Not, oh, hey, shield this so you can buy my token so I can dump it. We're not doing that. Everybody's doing that. That's not the goal. The goal is to stop that nonsense and say, is there a solution to the current state of DeFi or is it not? If it's not, let it go, forget about it, stop watching the video. If it is, maybe you want to join what we're doing and help us make DeFi better. When buys happen, it fuels one system that rewards selling through a pyramid structure. If you can fuel two systems, then you can create balance. And so by fueling a delayed system and an immediate system, you can balance the two. What we're giving people the ability to do, projects that build on our chain, on Control Chain, is the ability to decide what percentage of value do you want to go towards immediate and what percentage do you want to go towards delayed. For example, if you have 70% of your buy volume go towards immediate value and you have 30% go towards delayed, now you are starting to balance two ideas. You're also balancing two groups of people. You're balancing the people that sell versus the people that hold. You're balancing speculation in the immediate versus speculation in the long term. You're balancing prioritizing being early and dumping the charts versus being early and staying for a long time. You're balancing getting your own value versus getting value for everybody. It's the difference between you in the short term or everybody in the long term. And by having two liquidity systems, you can determine that if $1 million in buys come through, now you've got 700K in your immediate liquidity that's available for trading, buying, selling. But you also have 300K that's delayed to protect the chart, to protect the life of the project, the sentiment, and to reward the long-term believers in the project who typically get nothing, to be honest with you, because of how this is structured. The people that believe in the project are usually the ones that are punished the most. And so when you have a chart that does this, you'll start to see different charts play out. Instead of the typical pump and dump, we now have a level of support where if the dump happens, it will be protected at a certain level to the degree to which you balance the delayed liquidity. In this case, it's 30%. So when we have that 30%, you will probably have, depending on how you give it out, you can give it out in rewards, you can give it out in a buyback wallet, a secondary liquidity pool that has different mechanisms through selling and the different liquidity pools. There's a lot of ways to do it, and it's all about finding what is the best systems for DeFi, for meme tokens and for utility tokens, for the communities and for the ideas that we're supporting to be able to succeed. How do we pull value away from the people that are destroying projects? How do we give value to the people that are helping keep the projects alive? And shouldn't it work that way? Shouldn't you, if you're running a country or a household or a company, be punished if you're causing it to die and be rewarded if you're helping it thrive? If you're making life better for your community, shouldn't you be rewarded with value for that? Do you get the concept of what I'm saying? Crypto only rewards you if you sell, so all the value is basically saying whoever destroys this project first and damages the community the most wins. Whoever doesn't destroy the project and doesn't damage the community the most loses. That's the structure of how typical liquidity works if all your value goes to an immediate supply. And so by having delayed liquidity, we're going to reward more of the community than if all the value goes to one system and that one system can be drained. Well, now our 300K can't be drained, right? The sellers, we've got value that the sellers can't destroy, which is super important to build up value that sellers can't destroy. And if it does sell off, there's still value left over, which is awesome, because what that means is people say, oh, I've got something to fall back on. Typically, when a chart dumps, the people feel like they round-tripped their bags. Man, I sat on so much and I didn't take any profits. I hate myself. My wife is going to leave me. You got the people who bought the top who are very upset. And everybody is just left with a project that's lost its momentum and there is no value left. There's no value. You lost. By delaying value, it increases the likelihood of recovery, and there's something left for you. Even if your bag goes down, it's like, well, at least 30% of the buy volume got stored up for us who are left with the project. That's basically what we're prioritizing. It's the people who leave the project between the people who stay. And if you give all the value to the people who leave, what do you think's going to happen? What do you like? Why? Obviously, it's going to pump and dump over and over again, and everybody's going to go, "I don't understand what's going on." The staying whales and the teams, the influencers, everybody's blaming each other. Everybody's upset. It's all a scam. People don't know what's going on. They're all pointing at each other. It's chaos, right? The current markets are chaos. Everybody's blaming everybody, and nobody has a solution. The solution is very simple. You need value. People are chasing value. They're not chasing meme coins or partnerships or images or communities. They're chasing value. And if you ignore that and you try to suppress that, you're going to get lost in understanding what's going on. People are chasing value. And so you have to attach value to the success of the project, not just potential value. You have to counter the negative incentives of the supply distribution that works like a pyramid that rewards selling. And how do you counter a pyramid that rewards selling? Well, you need value that rewards holding. That's pretty, I don't know if it could be any more simple than that. 1 + 1 = 2. Stop rewarding selling with all the value and start balancing it with how much you reward holding. In this case, we're rewarding selling with 70% of the liquidity while we're rewarding holding with 30% of the liquidity. This increases the amount of your community that is going to be able to win, and it changes the incentives. To me, telling a group of people, whoever does the most damage to the project through getting as big a bag and then selling on top of each other first wins, to telling them we have a significant value both in the immediate and the delayed, so that you can choose, do you actually believe in this community? Do you actually believe in this idea? Because if you do, there's value there for you. Whereas before there's not, and you might even sell down projects that you're really bullish on because you don't want to risk the pattern that always happens, the pump and dump, and you might as well realize those gains. So people have been incentivized to chase a structure that works like a Ponzi, that damages 90% of the community and sacrifices the future of the project so that they can get this value. I don't know if you could explain crypto Ponzi's or why crypto works like a Ponzi any clearer than that. And so what we have created, the solution, because we actually want to make DeFi better. How awesome would it be if the projects you were getting in on, you had delayed liquidity where you could say, I actually believe this one, I'm gonna let it ride. And so by fueling these two different systems, when buy pressure happens, you're able to appeal to multiple types of investors. You're able to appeal to the holders who like long-term, and there's actually value in it. You're able to appeal to your short-term and people who say, I want to get in and I want to get out. And the problem is there's no balance here. So the importance of all of this and why I did this is just simply to explain the solution. I don't think anybody's going to listen to this, to be honest, in terms of they just, until it's happening and a project does well with these, people just will not listen. They're chasing narratives. They're not chasing ideas that are good. They're chasing ideas that they think people will chase. It's purely speculation based. People, they understand the game. There's no reason to chase the idea, the community. It's purely just be early in what you think other people are going to try to be early in. There still are people that chase utility and chase ideas. It's just not nearly as much because people realize what the game is. They realize the pyramid. So by having value in the future and in the present, you allow for a individual like yourself or whoever might watch this to actually decide. If I have value that's attached to the future and the immediate, now your decision's actually going to be based off of whether or not you believe in the project or not, because there's actual value attached to it. Especially if the chart gets sold down, you still have your significant value. And instead of saying, I'm going to cut my losses and give up, you can say, no, I actually like this project. I like what they're doing. And that's really all we're providing is you need the ability to get in and out, right? That's the immediate liquidity. It allows you to get in, allows you to get out. I believe in it. I don't believe in it. That's really all it is. But we need value for the long-term believers. We need rewards for the long-term believers. And really, we need something to counter the Ponzi nature of the supply distribution that works like a pyramid. And the way to counter that is to have delayed value, value that goes towards holding versus value that goes towards selling, right? If all the value only goes towards selling, then everyone's going to seek to sell down your project, whether it's a good idea or not. If you have value that goes towards holding, and if it's significant, you can balance those things. What our chain does, what control chain does, is we give projects the ability to say, like I said, do you want 10% to go towards the immediate and 90% towards delayed? Do you want it to be 50-50? Do you want it to be 70%? 30? Or do you want it to be 90% towards the immediate and only 10% towards delayed? Or do you want the current model where 100% of all value goes towards a structure that works like a pyramid that rewards selling and causes pump and dumps, and 0% of all that value to go into the rest of the community's hands in protecting the chart and incentivizing the long-term growth? That's the question that DeFi will have to ask themselves as they come to understand what we're doing at Control Chain. Do I like the current system, the pyramid, that only benefits a few of the community and sacrifices the future of the project as well as the rest of the community? Or do I want to balance that? Over here, it's the whales. Over here, it's the project and the community. How much value do you want going towards the community and the project, and how much value do you want going towards the whales who sell? If you could pick a number, then tell me what it would be, because that's exactly what you're going to be able to do with our blockchain on our DEX. You'll be able to say, I think 70%, which it probably is a pretty good number to be honest with you, towards the immediate is good, but I think 30% towards delayed is good as well. Boom. The chart starts moving. That's awesome. Now you've got value built up for the long term. People can look at both and decide. And I think that if you have a really good idea, because this model doesn't guarantee success, nothing can, it's just a tool. You still have to have a good idea, you still have to have good marketing, you still have to have a good community and the right circumstances. Once you get to the point where you see a certain level of growth, you have the entire time, if you had, 10 billion in buy volume, then you would have, with this model of 70%, you'd have 7 billion for buying and selling. And you know that those whales are going to sell that down if you get a project to blow up. But you'll have a floor of value that goes towards the holders of 3 billion. And that's why I think that people just don't even understand what's happening in crypto to understand that there's a solution to the problem. To say, how much value do you want to go to the people who are early and sell the project? If you were to ask the community that, they probably, all of them who lost, they would say, not all of it. And that's where a sell tax is really powerful too, because sell tax can take a portion of that value and give it back towards the delayed liquidity and say, hey, if we have a 10% sell tax, then everybody who's taking profits is also going to be fueling the future of the project. So projects will be able to basically pick the time frame for how long they want the project to live, 1 month, 6 months, 1 year, 5 years. And then communities will be able to come in and say, okay, this guy's got 70% towards his immediate. They've got 30% towards their delayed. So I could be rewarded for the immediate if I want, which is still pretty good. But if I do go in the long term, there could be quite significant value stored up for me in the long term. And this project chose to go for a year. So this project will have 1 year of 30% of all their buy volume storing up for the long-term belief that, oh man, I actually feel super confident. I really like this team. I really like this project. And there's safety attached to it, or at least something to fall back on, that 30% of the buy volume is going to be stored up for me and the rest of the community who believes in this project. It's a much, much better system because it balances the problems. It balances whale dominance. It balances pump and dumping, snipers. It balances bad actors, all of these things. Delayed liquidity is the answer to DeFi. And I just need people to realize that. And I don't think they'll realize that if I tell them. They will realize that if I show them. And so once our DEX and our chain comes out, we will be building projects that have delayed liquidity. They will have value between these two decisions, between the immediate and the long term, between the short term selling and the long term holding. If there's no value in the long term holding, then of course I'm gonna sell, right? So this is the crypto Ponzi explained plus the solution. I appreciate you guys watching, and if you guys have any questions, you guys can message me on Twitter, YouTube. You can check out our seed round for this blockchain that we're building to create these whole new kinds of cryptos. No one's ever experienced cryptos that have significant value going towards delayed liquidity. They've only experienced 100% value towards immediate liquidity. I don't know if people realize that.